the level of Gershon, which is Sur Mera, we chase away the bad. Then we have the level of Kehos, Lo Yikas Amin, the idea of gathering together. That's the level of Asay Toiv. And then we have the level of Merari, where the person realizes that as much as he does in Sur Mera and Asay Toiv, he still has the Merirus because he needs to reach the ultimate Shlemus. That is the Avodah, the way it goes in a Seder of below to above. That's the birth order that we have in Parshas Bamidbar. But at the end of Parshas Bamidbar, the beginning of our Parsha, it talks about the order having to do with the Torah. Torah is from above to below. So he starts off first with the Bnei Kahas, who used to carry the Aron, and because they would carry the Aron, so therefore they had the level of going from above to below. So we start with Kahas first, and then we go to Gershon and Merari. So now we're going to connect this with the ideas that we've had in Lag Ba'omer Mamarim, that there's the level of Torah versus Tefillah, that Torah is from above to below, and davening is from below to above. We're also going to connect it with what we had in the previous Maimer, the Dvar Malchus, the Shavuos Maimer from that year, that we spoke about, that the Aseres HaDibros has two lines to it, two components, Havaya and Elakim, and Vaidaber and Lamar, because it's all reflective of the joining of both lines. Ois Gimel, line 12 on the fourth page of the printouts, Yudalit. The general difference in the avodah from below to above, which is the way that the families of Bnei Levi are enumerated in the beginning of Parshas Bamidbar, versus the avodah from above to below. That's the level that we're talking about, beginning with Bnei Kahas. At the end of Parshas Bamidbar and the beginning of our Parsha, it's a difference between davening and learning. Like it's explained in the Mamorim dealing and speaking about Reb Shimon ben Yochai. In other words, the Mamorim usually associated with Lag Ba'omer, those matters that Chayni Hamagal affected through the avodah down here below, that he put himself in a circle, and he said, I'm not moving from here until Hashem brings down the rain. She avoided Satfilah, it's the avodah of davening. And also Tanesim with tzedakah, and different fasts, and giving tzedakah. Super aprotim, also like it's related in Chazal, the different things that the different ways of davening that Chayni HaMaglo and other tzaddikim did to be able to bring down the rains. So all those things that Tefillah affected in a very prescribed manner, in the Oisam and Yon and Paul Rajbi Torah, those very things that Rashim Ben Yochai affected through Torah. Like is brought down the Zohar, there was once when the world needed rain. This means there is an existence of the world. It's not that the world doesn't exist, but it exists. And this existence of the world needed rain. Also, Rashbi came before Reb Shimon ben Yochai, and he explained in what is Torah on the pasuk that says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant." It would take from Yad Yard Gesham, and immediately rain came down, which indicates that it's a level of above to below, because you didn't have to do any preparations down here below. You didn't have to do all different fasts and so on and so forth. So this corresponds to the two types of levels of the enumeration of the children of Levi, either Gershon, Kos, and Merari, that's Malmata Lamaila, or Kos and Gershon, Merari is Malmaila Lamata. And then the Rebbe explains that really in Torah itself there's also these two levels. Line 24, Amnam Bepratis Yosef, but more specifically, in the Gam B'Torah Gufa, also in Torah itself, Yesh Pardes Shabbat. What is the Pardes referring to? Literally, it means an orchard. What's the orchard made up of? Pshat, Remez, Drush, Soy, these different parts of the Torah. The literal meaning, that which the Torah hints, that what we derive through different drashas like halacha and the secrets of the Torah. Shehem keneged arba oilum atzilus bri yitzira asiyah. Soid is in the world of Atzilus. Drush is in the world of Bria, Rem is in the world of Yetzirah, and Pshat is Nasiyah. In general, there's this difference between the external part of the Torah, meaning the revealed part of the Torah, halachas, Gemara, and so on, to the inner part of the Torah. Chazal refer to these two parts of the Torah, davar gadol and davar katan, a major thing and a minor thing. And the Chazal explained, davar gadol, meiser merkava. What is considered a major thing? Those are the story and the dealing with the divine chariot. In other words, great spiritual secrets, the side of the Torah. The davar katan, what's considered a minor thing, havayis, Havaya Rava, the discussions of Abaya and Rava, which is the revealed part of the Torah, the halachos of the Torah, the Gemara, and so on. The difference between the revealed and the inner part of the Torah is the external part of the Torah, top of Peitas Vav, Nimsheches Mechitzonis HaKeser, comes down from the external level of Keser, which is higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. So even though we associated it with the different worlds, but its source is even higher. Its source, the Nigla source, is an external level of Keser. The inner part of the Torah comes down from the inner level of Keser. That's the idea that the inner part of the Torah is also called the Yechida part of Torah. We know that the inner part of the Torah will be taught by Mashiach, and Mashiach is also connected with Yechida, because Pnimis HaTorah is connected with Yechida. Like it's known concerning the 5 names that the Neshama is called by. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. David Bechinas Nefesh. David HaMelech is the general level of Nefesh of the entire Klal Yisrael. Eliyahu Bechinas Ruach. Eliyahu is the Ruach of the whole Klal Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu Bechinas Neshama. Adam Erishna Bechinas Chayu. Mashiach Hu Yechida. It's Bechinas Yechida. So since Mashiach is the level of Yechida, therefore he is the one to reveal the Yechida part of Torah. Shal Yoda Yid Gili Pnimis HaTorah Lost Lavoi. That through Mashiach will be the revelation of the inner part of the Torah when Mashiach comes. But the Rebbe says what Mashiach is going to reveal of the inner part of the Torah is built on prior levels. La'achre, he says in the parentheses, La'achre Askola B'Zebedoi, say La'achreinim, after beginning the level of the revelation of the inner part of the Torah in these latter generations before the coming of Mashiach. She'oz, in the latter generations before the coming of Mashiach, muter mitzvah legal, so it's a chachma which calls for Arizal. It is permitted, and not only is it permitted, but it's a mitzvah to reveal this chachma of the Pnimis HaTorah as the Arizal wrote. And not just is it allowed, and not just is it a mitzvah to reveal it, but the manner in which it's supposed to be revealed, until a manner in the manner of your wellspring shall spread outwards, shall expand outwards, because then the master, which is Mashiach, will come. So we see that on the one hand, it's Mashiach that will, because he's a level of Yechida, he will reveal the Yechida of the Torah, the Pnimius HaKeser, but it's also based on what we started beforehand. Shadavka, specifically then when Mashiach comes, Yagila the Pnimis HaKeser will be the revelation of the inner part of Keser. La'achre v'ayidei his galusa b'Torah, following and through its revelation in Torah. In other words, like this, when Mashiach comes, there will be a general revelation of Keser. The means, the channel that will bring the Pnimis HaKeser down, which is the Yechida, the level of Mashiach, and so on, it's going to come first and foremost through the inner part of Keser that's revealed in Torah. So the Rebbe says in the parentheses, like all matters that they begin through Torah, so it begins with Pnimis HaTorah as the thing that brings it out. That's the level of Yechida in the Torah. Through that is drawn down and becomes revealed also the Yechida of the world, Pnimius HaKeser, the inner level of Keser as well. So the Torah is the means and the channel that brings down Pnimius HaKeser of the entire world, because Torah has to begin all processes. So now he's going to bring Another idea in this concept of the kahos that were first because they were associated with Torah. So he says in line 19, according to what's explained by the Tzemach Tzedek in Torah, shekahos noisei ha'aron helu es ha'Torah. Kahos carried the aron. Literally, what happens when you carry it? You lift it up, you raise it up, which means there is the aron, the Torah, the way it is on its own, and then there's the way Kahas raises it to a higher level. So they raised up the Torah, which Torah on its own is Chachma Bina Datzilus, it's the level of Chachma Bina Datzilus. And they raised it up, Lebchinas Chachma Bina the Arech Anpin. They raised it to the level of Chachma Bina of Arech Anpin, Shuhu Bechinas Tachtoina Shabamaitzel Pnimis HaKeser. That is the lower level of the Maitzel, of the emanator, which means in Keser there's two levels. The level has to do with the emanator, with Hashem, and then there's a level that's the source of the Netzolim, of the emanated beings. So this, he raised it up even higher to the level of the Darget Achtoin Shem Maitzel Pnimis HaKeser, the level of Atik. I'm not sure exactly the language over here, because it's Arech Anpin is usually associated with lower than Atik, but I guess he's talking about from one level to another. So now he continues in line 23, V'lechein godlam alosam al bnei Gershon. Therefore, their level, the level of the Bnei Kahas, is higher than Bnei Gershon. Why? Shinyanam lahalis hamidus datzilus lamidus dekeser chitzainis hakeser. What the Bnei Gershon's job was, they were elevating the midos of Atzilus. Their avoida of what they carried and their function in what they lifted up. So just like the Bnei Kahas lifted up the level of Seichel, Chachma Bina, the Bnei Gershon lifted up the midos. Where did they lift up the midos? They lifted up the midos of Atzilus to the midos of Keser, which the midos of Keser, as opposed to the Chachma Bina Keser, that's Chitzainis HaKeser. And now the Rebbe goes on further, connecting it to what we spoke about before, about the difference between Pnimis HaTorah and the Chitzainis. Yeshloimer, we could say, She'ikir in Yonishal Kahas, who Pnimis HaTorah, Shnemshechas, Mebchinas Pnimis HaKeser. The main idea of Kahas is the inner part of the Torah, that comes from the inner level of Keser. Ve'ilu in Yonishal Gershon, who Chitzainis HaTorah, Shnemshechas, Mebchinas HaKeser, as opposed to Gershon, even though we associated him before with the level of Midos, but since it has to do with Chitzainis HaKeser, so therefore it's the external level of Keser, so it has to do with Chitzainis HaTorah, as we said before, the Chitzainis HaTorah has to do with Chitzainis of Keser. Based on this distinction between Gershon and Kahas, that Gershon has to do with the external level of Keser and Kahas has to do with the Pnimis HaKeser, now we will understand the language at the beginning of our parsha. Page Tazayin, V'zeh Nasa Yisrael Bnei Gershon. Gam Heim, that's why it says, count the heads of the Bnei Gershon, also them. This an also type of expression, Gam Heim. After it says initially, you shall also count the heads of the family of Kahas, which is in the end of last week's parsha. The expression, like we said at the beginning of the Maimer, Gam Heim, also them, shows that they are only ancillary, they're only also in addition to the Bnei Kahas. The main idea of the Nesiyas Roish was by the Kahas family. Because they raised up the Torah to the inner level of Keser. Still in all, despite the fact that the Bnei Kahas had this very high level, it still says, Nemar, it says, Nasis Rosh Bnei Gershon Gam Heim, also count the heads of the Bnei Gershon, also raise the heads of the Bnei Gershon, because they at least also raised up to the level of Keser, though it was the external part of Keser. The cost of Gershon b'Torah Pnimis HaTorah v'Nigla Torah, according to what was said previously, that Kahas and Gershon in Torah is the inner part of the Torah and the revealed part of the Torah. We could say that what does it mean, the idea of the raising of the heads of Torah, the counting by the Bnei Kos, primarily it's the inner part of the Torah. What is it? How does it manifest itself? It's similar to what the Alter Rebbe writes in the Geras HaKodesh, concerning the study of the inner part of Torah, how it's going to be when Mashiach comes. So he explains in the Geras HaKodesh Simon Chavav, she'efsher v'karev adavar she'yedu mepnimius haTorah kol gufei haTorah niglas. It is possible, and it's close to say, that when we will learn the inner part of the Torah when Mashiach comes, so since the inner part of the Torah is the source for the revealed part of the Torah, so by understanding it in the Pnimius, we will, in other words, we will understand it the way it's in the Ilmus Al Yoinim, the way it's in Atzilus, and so on. From that, we will know the halacha the way it is in the external part of the Torah, in the literal psak halacha. And therefore, because of the impact that Pnimius HaTorah will have on Nigla the Torah, so therefore B'nai Kahos, whose Pnimius HaTorah will impact B'nai Gershon, which is Nigla the Torah. Vaydezeh, line 15, through this Nimshacha Inyan the Nasis Rosh B'nai Gershon Gam Heim, that you will also raise up the heads of the B'nai Gershon, also them. Sheikare B'nigla the Torah, that we said before, the family of Gershon is primarily in the revealed part of the Torah. Shagam B'nigla the Torah, Yin Nikar Pnimis HaTorah, also in the revealed part of the Torah will be recognizable, the inner part of the Torah. Umizen Nimshach Gam Lamata Mata being the Merari. This comes down even below into the matter of Merari. Shu Inyan Hisab Chashoichal and Hoida Mrirul Miskot, the idea of transforming darkness to light and bitter to sweet. What is the greatness of the sweetness? Only and specifically when it comes, that's the better type of sweetness when it comes out of bitterness. Just like the greater light that comes out of the darkness. So that's why, after we have the B'nai Kahos, which is the inner part of the Torah, and then it impacts the revealed part of the Torah, so the next thing is the B'nai Merari, that it impacts all the way to transform the bitter to sweet. He says Nois Daled. Now he's going to connect it with what we spoke about in the first Maimer in this Dvar Malchus at the beginning of last week concerning the two sides that there is in the Aser Sadibris, Midas Hadin, Midas Harachmim, Havayin, Olakim, Nois Daled. Line 23. We can connect this in a possible way what was explained in the previous Maimer, in the Shavuos Maimer of that year. What it says in Aser Sadibris, it begins, Hashem spoke with the word Dibur, and then it concludes, Lamer. Lamer is soft, Dibur is kosher. Hey, Lashon Dibur Shaloshin kosher, Vein Lashon Amir Shaloshin Raka. Both Dibur, which is a hard type of speech, and Amira, which is a soft speech. V'chein is Shem Elokim v'Shem Havaya. Also, the two names of Hashem were mentioned, Elokim and Havaya, like it says, Vaydaber Elokim, Elokim spoke. V'chsiv Ponim Beponim Dibur Havaya, it says face to face, Havaya spoke. So at the beginning of the Aser Sadibris it says, I am Havaya, your God. So again, we have Shnei Hashem is the Havaya Elokim. We have both names of Havaya Elokim. The reason why there is all these combinations, Dibur, and Amira, and Havaya, and Elokim, because when is there perfection? When you have both lines, two approaches. Just like the way it's above, like the saying from Kabbalah that's brought down to Chassidus, that Hashem, just like his power and his capabilities is in the infinite, he is not limited to the unlimited. He can perform in a limited way as well. He can constrict himself as well. How come? Top of page Yud Zayin. The imloy kain ater machasat shleimusay, because if he's only unlimited, so then you limit his perfection and completion. So we see that perfection is made up of having two sides, both the infinite and the finite. The same thing, Havaya and Elikim, you need both. Dibur and Amira, you need both for perfection. The whole idea of perfection is connected with Hashem's very essence, or in Hashem's essence. Over there, that whenever we talk about two lines, it's not that there's actually two lines, it's all in Hashem's level of capability, in the level of Yecholos, which is a lot more subtle and a lot more refined than an actual division of lines. Like it's explained in Kabbalah about this. Just like in the perfection of Hashem, there is two lines, so too in Torah there's both lines, and that's why the Torah was given with that Dibur and Amira and Havaya and Elikim. Like it says, from his right, a fiery law is to him. So right is chesed and fire is gevura. The right, which is kindness, and a fire, which is the level of severity. This is all the dust, this is all the law, this is Torah. And both of them are together in a way of peace. They don't fight with each other. And from this above is the level of the two levels that's considered in the level of Shashuyim. That's brought down in Chassidus. It says that the Pasuk says that the Torah said, I was a Shashuyim, I was a plaything, I was an enjoyable thing by him. Shashuyim is twice Shasha, turning. There are two types of turning. These are two movements and opposite leanings, moti v'loy moti. Like, for example, Rotzi and Shuv. So the one is turning upwards and one is turning downwards. The source of Rotzi and Shuv is it reaches down below and then it pulls back, v'loy moti. And where do we see also in the general way these two movements of mati v'loy mati, the right and the left, chesed and the gvura, sha'atoyra hichem the gnuza. On the one hand, it's a hidden treasure. V'nitna lamata ba'aretz dafka, it was given down here below. So we see the rotzui, the uplifted level of Torah, and the level that comes downwards. And these two lines and approaches are to be found in the Torah study of a person. Beginning from the introduction to studying Torah. That before learning Torah, the Rabbeim over there used to say a pleasantry. The idea that his lips are dripping gall. In other words, there was both the level of shock and awe and both the level of smiling. That's all as a preface, an introduction to learning. So in the Torah study itself, the beginning of study has to be in a way and the foundation of bittul. Like it says, my tongue will respond your words. In other words, it's Hashem's words that I'm responding. The Torah is your words, not my thoughts. But my tongue is only like someone that responds and repeats after the one that's saying it. It's in the simple sense of the matter that he's only hearing and listening what the Rav is telling him. And following that, there has to be the study in a way of toil. So once he has the bittul, then there has to be the toil. And if a person says, I didn't toil and I found, do not believe him. One has to toil in Torah. To such a degree is he toiling, he's killing himself over it. He has to totally immerse himself in the matter, and he has to want to understand, and to toil in understanding the matter as much as he's able to. Top of the last page, like the Alter Rebbe expresses, that a person needs to toil in Torah according to his capabilities and also according to the root of his neshama above. This is not bittul with which we started off the Torah study. Just the opposite. It's an approach of the expansion of his intellect, that to length and breadth and depth, like it's explained in many places. In addition to toiling and understanding and comprehending all the different views and possible explanations of the matter, the Torah was not given cut and dry. We can find 49 sides to say that something is Torah and 49 ways of seeing that it could be Tameh. But after all the give and take, there has to be the toil that now we have to choose which way we're going to follow, bring out the halacha. That it should be the halacha according to him. This is the advantage of being calm and coming to a conclusion over a sharp person that asks questions that might not have the conclusion. It's explained in Shari the Middle Rebbe and the Mamar following this. So the Rebbe concludes, that's the idea of Nasis Rosh. In other words, raising up the head. And afterwards we draw this down in the Torah study in a broad manner, in such a manner that the study brings to action, fulfilling the mitzvahs with care and beauty, including also in all your ways you should know him, he fulfills it. Believe in such a way that he sees it with a sense of sight. But he will come and redeem us and lead us upright to our land soon, mamash.